This was 20 years ago at E3. You know, people were like, oh, 2 games a year. This is how much content was being put out. Insane, right? I mean, look at Capcom's booth. Bombastic, I don't remember that. Chaos Legion, Dino Crisis 3, Gotcha Force, I don't know what Group S challenges. Killer 7, Maximo 2, Mega Man Battle Network, Mega Man 7, Mega Man 02, Onimusha 3, Onimusha Blade Warriors, Onimusha Tactics, Piano 3, RE4, RE Code Veronica, RE Dead Aim, RE Outbreak, Steel Battalion Online, and Beautiful Joe. Man, I'm telling you, that's why I get excited when there's like a PC showcase or something for Steam or whatever, because you get the same amount of games. Look at EA used to put out a shit ton. Let's go to Sony. iToy, GT4, Jack 2, Rise to Honor, Monster Hunter, NBA Shootout, NCAA Game Breaker, NFL Game Day, PS Portable, Going Commando, Ratchet & Clank, SOCOM 2, the classic everybody loves, Siphon Filter, Omega Strain. Come on, man. And that's something. The point, though, I bring it up because maybe one of the reasons people are beating up on Spider-Man is because maybe, you know, you don't get as much as you used to get. So everything gets put under the microscope now more than it ever did, because this is all you're going to get this year from Sony, barring some kind of crazy surprise. I mean, we know Jim Ryan said you're going to get 2 AAA games a year now. And again, that's fine. I mean, you got to love your fucking graphics if that's an acceptable number of first-party games for you. But you know, it's not like that's all you play is first-party games. Get it. But let me ask you, that's what I wanted to ask. I'm going to put a poll up in just a second, because I've seen a lot of people kind of complain about Spider-Man, and I want to do a little bit of a test with the chat and get a sense of why do you think that is, and what's your excitement level to this game? Right? So for me, this is comfort food. It's Spider-Man. I don't think it looks staggeringly. Like when I looked at Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, it is one of the best looking games, if not the best looking game I've ever seen. It is fucking gorgeous. But when I look at this, the game looks fine. I mean, it's nothing, I don't go, oh my fucking God, it looks amazing. Not that I need that, but I'm like, whatever. Well, yeah, Robert George says, how can more of the same be bad? Well, it's not more of the same. That's the thing. More of the same in the case of, let's say, Spider-Man includes in that, one of the things you got from Spider-Man 1 was a sense of excitement and newness and, oh my God, the swinging. So if you aren't seeing anything in the trailer that brings you that same sense of newness and excitement, then it's not more of the same. And I think that that's the complaint a lot of people have about it. Jay the Gamer says this game will make $1 billion easily. Who cares what you people think? I care. That's why I'm asking it, bitch. You know, this kind of goes back to Victor Lucas's tweet about crunch. This goes back to something I've heard about a number of teams in the industry right now that are basically saying, here's how we can not burn our teams out. We can make our templates and then build, it's not a reskin. Only a moron would look at this and act like no real work was done. This will sell a lot because it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be well more than solid. It's going to look awesome. But, you know, it kind of feels uninspired. And I think maybe that's what comes with that philosophy of running a studio and saying, look, we're going to give you all the tools you need and we're going to give you enough time, but we're not going to burn the team out. We're not going to add features all day long. We're going to really be responsible stewards of y'all's time when you're working here, let's just say at Insomniac. And in that, maybe we get this. So I think that's why people are complaining, not because how they got here, but because it just looks like the excitement's gone. The bloom is off the rose. I didn't say they don't care about the IP, Lux. Lux says don't agree. Insomniac cares a lot about the IP. I didn't say they didn't care. You can care about it, and I think they do. And I think, there's some good stuff in here that is interesting to me. The switching between the two Spider-Men, I think, could be, we talked about this the other day, could be really interesting. Or it could be just like, okay, you know, like if you look at the boat chase scene from this trailer, I'm sure there might be some subtleties, but at least with what you see in the footage, switching between those characters didn't seem to really affect gameplay all that much. Legends is a great point. He says this is how good games come out fast unless you want to wait another 2 to 3 years. Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the chickens have come home to roost. Jizzaloop says switching doesn't do anything. You technically don't have a real choice. You don't know that. I know in the cinematic they showed, it was like, oh, time to call Miles. But if I had the ability to switch between two characters, I would be surprised if a designer as experienced and clever as the folks at Insomniac didn't say, what else can we do with this? How can we build interesting bosses? How can we build interesting challenges where one character is dealing with heavy melee combat and the other character's trying to solve a puzzle, and you have to switch between the two of them when you want to? I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that you could do with it. Give us more games like Returnal, experimental new IP. Well, they do, but a lot of times people don't buy them. That's where we're at, folks. You want the graphics, you want the IP, you want the production value. You got to take this. Somebody was saying, I think it was Eric Lennon saying, only an idiot would expect a Spider-Man game to be more than comfort food. And someone else is like, well, what do you want it to be? It's Spider-Man. I want it to be great, man. I want to be wowed by it. There's a lot of shit you can do with Spider-Man, both in terms of the IP and in terms of the IP as it relates to play mechanics. There's a lot of clever, unique stuff that you can do. Right now, the poll's at about 60%. You're more interested. 40% you're less interested. Aliz, can you change hearts and minds?
Yo, what's up, Jaffe?
Let's talk about Spider-Man. Go.
Yeah, the Persian community, like people who speak Farsi, like in my country, it did not appeal to them, like visual-wise, graphic-wise, and like everyone's just like hating on Sony. Everyone were like really mad at Sony. I mean, everyone was just talking about how the graphics were not what it should have been, and I do agree with them. I was really disappointed with the showing of Spider-Man. I mean, it's so weird to me that, I don't know, I expected more of Sony. It's been more than 2 years, and I thought, okay.
I've seen similar complaints all over the internet. And again, for me, yeah, I think it was kind of disappointing. I think people expected more. I think this game's going to sell bucket loads, and that's really all they need it to do. But I do think that this is probably, if you look at, I mean, think about it. What is the one studio that is consistently putting out product for PlayStation 5? It's Insomniac. And as great as Ratchet was, and I loved it so much I finished it, which is rare. It was a cookie cutter template game based off a game they've been making for 2 decades. Spider-Man 2 doesn't have the same visual flash that Ratchet
exactly
did. And so you're left with just the gameplay, which what they showed was fine, and it's very grilled cheese sandwich. People will play it and they'll enjoy it. It'll be comfort gaming, and that's all it needs to be. But I just think Sony has created an environment where people have higher expectations, and in that, this was a little weird. But it may be, Jim Ryan might be like, look, bitch, I get it, but those expectations, like Sean Layden said, ain't sustainable. So this is what you're going to get, and you're either going to love it or hate it.
But you know what's really interesting is that, Jaffe, we're talking about Insomniac. Insomniac is not just some given company. Insomniac is really known for this whole thing. I mean, the showing of the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for the first time, I think the trailer came out 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. We were like, oh my god, that's really good. That was really fascinating. And with the Spider-Man 2, I was like, okay, but this is just, it doesn't make any sense. It's been 2 years. We want games that are extremely next-gen when it comes to graphics. That's what we want. That's why I bought PS5.
I know, but if I told you the team making it, and I don't know if this is true, by the way. I know that this is a philosophy at some big companies, some of which work with Sony. I can't say that's Insomniac. I don't know that. But I know that if I were to tell you this is a game that got made in 3 years, but it was 85% crunch free for the vast majority of the team, you would understand why it's kind of more of the same, right? Innovation and brand new ideas, that stuff takes iterative, try this, throw this away. Oh shit, we've spent 6 months on this, throw it all away and start again because we finally found the fun. That's not what they're doing. Here's what I'll tell you. The Sony of the PS1 through 2.5 era, 3 era, were the days where people go, oh, I miss Parappa, I miss the really exciting weird stuff. They took chances. That all went away in 3 and 4, and you got these big cinematic games that were also really well written and surprising and astounding new tech, blah, 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 and your mind was blown. Well, it looks like those days are going away. And now Sony is saying, I mean, I'm extrapolating. I don't know this, but if Spider-Man and their games as a service trailers are anything to go on, you're going to basically get good, solid, dependable, we'll make it as good as we can, but it's too expensive to do what we were doing, and so hopefully you'll like this as well. We've gone from premium HBO shows to like network television shows. You know, we've gone from Game of Thrones to The Good Doctor, but The Good Doctor's great too. I love The Good Doctor, but you got to know what you're getting into. That's all I'd say.
Exactly. It's like I don't really want to just drag this whole thing to the conversation, but I really wish that Microsoft was doing like a hell of a lot better, that it would like make Sony to actually be better in this whole thing, because I know for the fact that myself and so many of our friends, we have bought PS5 for the single player, for those amazing graphics. Like that was one of the main reasons. And Sony just like, dude, the last showcase, which was like a week ago, was all about the gas. It was less about all those things we were promised, and I'm like really worried, because Sony has always been my favorite brand, because I grew up with the brand. I learned so much from it.
How old are you?
I'm actually 29.
Do you have a job?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason I ask that is, it's like, no offense, I don't mean to preach to you, but you got to let go of the idea that the company is not a real thing, right? You know, just like I remember I was a lot younger when I got disappointed after Steve Jobs died, and nothing from Apple has touched him since. He was an asshole, and he was a nightmare, but he pushed along and inspired a lot of great game-changing products. Well, I got to go elsewhere for that now. So I guess my point is it's like, let it go, because it's not there anymore. It's too expensive to do what you're talking about. There might be one or two every now and then that's a showpiece. And certainly when you jump up in graphics, but those days are of every big first-party Sony title being like, oh my fucking God, I think that's done. I mean, at least based on what they're showing us.
But do you think that this whole showing up the Spider-Man was one of the earlier builds? Because I've heard it here and there that maybe that wasn't like just one of the newest builds. Do you think that could be true?
They're going to put their best foot forward. I've never.
If that was their best foot, then holy shit! I think Sony is really changing, and you're actually right.
Sony is changing, but it was their best foot forward under the conditions. That doesn't mean that's all they're capable of. But it may have been that, you know, we got to get this trailer cut 2 months ago or approved a month ago, and the water system isn't totally working yet, and we didn't have this. So I'm sure the graphics are going to get more impressive if that's what you're there for. But I think ultimately, though, yeah, this was I don't think it was a very good showing for Sony in general, and certainly for this game. But it'll still sell bucket loads because it's fucking Spider-Man. Ghetto God says every Call of Duty is more of the same. So is Madden, Gears of War, Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I know, but again, this is kind of when people got mad at me when I said Ragnarok looked like DLC. I wasn't being insulting to it, although a lot of people took it that way, which was never what I meant. I've said it's a brilliantly made game. It looks amazing, all the stuff I've said about it. But the job of making a sequel, in my opinion, as a gamer, as a consumer, and as somebody who used to make games, including sequels, is to sort of like what you guys were saying. You gotta, if you really want to say, well, what do you expect? It's more of the same. That's what a sequel, you're making a sequel to something people already know. And it's like, it's not really more of the same. You really, if you want to own that statement, you really have to dig deep into it and go, like I said earlier in this show, part of what more of the same means is if the game surprised you, or to kind of paraphrase Jim Ryan, if the game surprised and delighted you, the last iteration, then part of more of the same includes the demand on the part of the consumer for more surprise and delight. So it actually would not be more of the same if Spider-Man 2 comes out and it plays pretty much like it looks in that trailer, because it feels like it's missing the surprise and delight. Mayan says, Jaffe, it's not a budget issue, it's a technology issue. No, it's a budget issue. I understand in the chat you guys are like, but it's an open world game. Well, first, let's be clear. Yes, it's open world, but there are still better looking open world games than this that we've seen so far. But I'm not even talking about the graphics. I know the last caller was talking about the graphics. For me, where the budget comes in and not the technology is the gameplay. I don't care if the game was flat shaded and everybody looked like Roblox characters. If they had done something fresh with the Spidey sense, or the swinging, or the switching between characters, or as, like I said in a previous show, as Peter gets more and more consumed by the symbiote suit, and ultimately which becomes Venom, he doesn't become Venom, but the suit you know how it works. It actually, the controls of Spider-Man change. And not just like, oh, X becomes O. I don't mean that, but I mean it becomes, you have to learn how to play as Peter Venom. So you have to struggle with the fact that it's like, I need to do all this stuff that I've done before, but now I've got this symbiote who is resisting me. So for example, if I come down to stop a robbery now and I'm wearing the symbiote suit, maybe I'm stronger, maybe I survive longer, but I also have this pull where the controller is literally trying to drag me to civilians so I can consume their fucking brains. And it's like, dude, I'm not saying that would be fun. Don't fucking come at me and say it doesn't sound like fun. It's not the point. Right now, that's not the point. The point is that, Saber Zero, I don't like that sounds awful. It's not the point, fellas. I'm not trying to pitch you on a feature for Spider-Man. Be fucking smart and understand the context of this conversation. What I'm saying is that kind of thought. And let's say it's not fun, by the way. Let's say it's not fun, but it sounds fun enough that it's worth, all right, let's take 3 weeks with the programmer and noodle with it. That's where budget comes in, right? That's where going, hey man, we gotta crunch this weekend because we added this feature that looks like it may work. Saber Zero, shut up, you contrarian fuckstick. Changing gameplay for the sake of changing gameplay doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does, idiot. Yes, it fucking does. Because part of the product you're selling people when you sell them a video game is surprising them and delighting them and making something that is compelling and interesting to them. Just like if you make a movie, no, you don't have to. I already saw Star Wars. Why do you have to write more scenes in it? Why not just give me what I already like? Because what you liked was something that was fresh, and now it's not fresh, you fucking moron. Fucking come. You've never done anything in your life. Your name is literally Saber Zero with a Pinocchio Phil Spencer avatar. Go achieve something tangentially related to the creative arts and then come back at me and tell me that you deserve a seat at my fucking table, bitch. What I'm fucking telling you, sir, is whether or not that idea is fun or not, you absolutely have to create new things if you want to recapture the same freshness that the first game did. And that takes time. And that takes iteration. And that takes money. And frankly, when you don't have the technology issue, when you have an open world and you're like, well, we can't do what Ratchet did, then you better fucking come to play with the gameplay. Sprinting Snail says gameplay looks fine. Yeah, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for first party. Wooden's Throne, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. He says, look, hey, Spider-Man and Miles are too similar, maybe? Someone like Venom would have to be playable, an anti-hero with layers of depth like Maximum Carnage. Right. Again, I'm not saying that's the solve either. But, and maybe they tried it. I don't fucking know. Maybe Ted Price is like, look, fellas, you got 6 months where it's just go nuts. And maybe they just, again, this is not an insult. They're one of the best developers on the planet. But maybe after 6 months, they said, nothing we're coming up with. And then it's like, all right, cool, not a problem. Use the cookie cutter pattern, make it as great as we can in the time we have left. Let's go. I don't know if that was something they had and that wasn't fun, but that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Things where you see it in a trailer and go, ooh. But I mean, even the fucking switching between Spider-Man, it didn't really, do much visually. Maybe when you play it, you get a totally different thing. And maybe there'll be another trailer. Maybe the Insomniac team, some of which I know watch this, maybe they'll be like, maybe they're back. I'm not saying because they watch this, but I'm saying perhaps because they've seen the internet and they're like, yeah, we could do better. That's unfortunate. People are feeling that way about the game. And so maybe they will get a trailer at Keeley's, which is like, all right, we're gonna lift up the skirt a little bit more. We got to show you what's under the hood here. It's a skirt and a hood. I know I'm fucking it up, but yeah, Jeeves says, I keep hearing multiverse mechanics. I don't know what that means, but that could be really fucking cool too. Rolo says Wolverine will bring that new car smell or new car feeling. Spider-Man doesn't need to do that. Yes, it does. And it will still be great. I'm sure it will be great. I'm very much looking forward to playing it, but I'm not hyped as I was. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'll do it on day one because of the stream and people will say, Jaffe streamed the game. But unless they show a lot more, I have so many games to play. I can't imagine if I wasn't streaming, I would be playing that day one because it kind of just looks like another DLC of Spider-Man, which again is not bad. It's just I want kind of more than that. I've already had that experience. A Herald says, I thought the same with Ragnarok, and it ended up being very successful. There is no doubt this game will be incredibly successful. I'm not talking about that at all. The only way it might not be successful is in the long term, if this marks sort of the way Sony is doing business with their games and their AAA games and studios, and it's the beginning of watching this kind of more cookie cutter stance take hold, and in that maybe you look at it and go, oh, that was the beginning of that. But I think the game's going to do fucking gangbusters. Doug says Jaffe's taste lean towards Steam Game Pass trying new shit. PlayStation software direction clearly doesn't line up with his taste. It's like a vegetarian criticizing a steak restaurant's menu. That is a wonderfully nice analogy, but it's not accurate, because I loved Spider-Man. I loved Miles Morales. I loved The Last of Us 2. I loved God of War 2018. So don't fucking tell me I don't love what first party cooks up. I do. But part of what I love about it is it's fresh and it's interesting and it's different. And when it's not, I express my disappointment at that lack of uniqueness. You're reading the tea leaves wrong on me if you think it's because I'm just looking for weird experimental shit. I want to be surprised. I want to be delighted.